By the way, even I misunderstood Michael Sayes's statements on selling NVIDIA on this. The hyperscalers are actually the ones who might be overly combative. You know, these companies, aside from Apple, may be too much. You're talking about the JP Morgan strategist. I am aware that he wrote last week, but was questioning and stated the emperor had few clothing, which was devastating in some respects. I raised this idea from the very beginning of the event, and it was being questioned. Will they want to retaliate again? As our viewers are aware, we return to the same themes as often as necessary since they are the most crucial ones in the market. Generative AI, of course, and the applications that will be used. Will we get a, oh, well, listen. However, this concept has existed for a while now, ever since that Sequoia person really sent that message, yes, a long time ago, simply stating, this is the number that I'm coming up with. And this is what you would need to see in terms of actually having a return that made sense for this number. To ring the opening bell, however, I met with Jeff this morning, who is the fantastic CEO, because it's Medtronic's 75th birthday. And Jeff mentioned colonoscopies, which is one of the things he indicated that I believe is quite important. He added that they have both a conventional version and an AI version. Additionally, 50% of the malignant polyps found by their AI version are not included in the ordinary version. And Medtronic, these somewhat isolated instances keep coming up. Asterisk science asterisk study. Asterisk nature asterisk, yes, asterisk science asterisk study. Discuss the topic of wait a second. Maybe we're mapping out all the ways that cancer could be caused the other week. Perhaps we simply don't have enough usage, David. I believe Jensen Doe would say, guys, we've had this, since Sequoia did that note, if you were present. No, but there isn't a single person we speak to, and I'm sure you are aware that we periodically speak to one another outside of this set, who doesn't agree that this will be a game changer. Isn't what they all say the same? Even though I haven't met one, I believe that every CEO, regardless of how long it takes, what form it takes, and who the beneficiaries are in the end, makes reference to things like drug discovery and how you'll be able to significantly reduce the time for a new drug and what that will mean, in addition to what you mentioned with Medtronic and colonoscopies. However, Jim, will investors essentially be in a wait-and-see attitude until we begin to see these consumer applications? The customer doesn't appear to understand the value proposition of AI, and nobody seems to believe in the consumer AI PC as much as we believed. Why not, to a certain extent? I can enter ChatGPT after all. You can accomplish anything without a PC, therefore I don't really need it, I understand. If you want to return to the notion that we must be concerned about AI because everyone else is, and I say this because, David, is there a point at which people are comfortable not selling NVIDIA? Did we make it today? Last week, NVIDIA was severely impacted. The chart is deemed acceptable by some. However, NVIDIA is still the Psalm and the Verdun, David. Isn't that the Psalm in World War I? I always swap wars, you know. You do, I'm sure. This is the situation with Getty Wars. NVIDIA has increased by 6%, 12%, and 3%. It trades like GameStop did, of course, if you pay attention to the volume now, David. There are numerous zero-day Z30 choices available. Yes, I am aware that the children enjoyed playing Zero Day. All I can say is, I wish I were Grandpa when they say, oh, Grandpa just said. Yes, they alternate between placing their wagers on tonight's game and FanDuel. Why not then? I'm talking about the over on NVIDIA's zero-day choices. You are therefore a total anachronism. No one is affected by you in any way. It's amazing. And since I've only sit next to you, David, I'm not sure what it means to me. I don't currently have NVIDIA installed, but I play daily fantasy here every day. I started Cooper Kupp, Saquon Barkley, and Richardson. Do you realize how amazing I am? Actually, I didn't do that. However, David, the truth is that NVIDIA is unable to complete. For NVIDIA, the long knives are out. By the way, it seems like it doesn't matter when you purchase one because demand for them will, well, it should be now, decrease. However, spending or SP will slow. Additionally, we had excellent figures from Hawk Tan and Broadcom. David, people detested it. It was despised. Hawk also takes in the show. He observes. He watches the show and is an Eagles fan. Holy cow, where did people want to sell that? That's all I have to say. That deterioration was quite micro-like. Well, it's not like that at all. We must reiterate that over the past 12 months, Broadcom's stock has increased by 60%. Yes, my trust was authorized, and it was in the market cap club of $800 billion, or nearly $800 billion, I believe. You see, it was similar to Berkshire. The 800 and 900 are not included. Now what they need, you know why, they say, since they haven't. In fact, you get 200 billion when you visit DraftKings. It's called it receives points, isn't it? You keep an eye on DraftKings to see where stocks are headed. Murderer, I have no idea what you're discussing. Now let's talk about chips, which are at the heart of the AI frenzy. Since its recent peak, the SME Semi ETF has lost over 20% of its value. If the AI boom is only getting started, would you say that the market is in a bear market? What can restart the chips? And why are they performing so poorly? Those details belong to Seema Modi. The fact that utilities are beating the chips year to date and diversifying the trade has received a lot of attention lately, isn't it, Kelly? Indeed, during the past month, there has been a noticeable slowdown in the generative AI marketplace. You can see that stocks of companies like NVIDIA, AMD, and Broadcom, these are the major players, right? That specialize in the hardware and software that power the hyperscalers with their AI models, are down at least 22% from their peak values. Additionally, high memory bandwidth names like Micron, which has dropped almost 45% from its 52-week peak, and AI server brands like Supermicro, Dell, and HP Enterprise are also under pressure. In a letter to investors, Jordan Klein of Mizuho stated that buy-side enthusiasm in semiconductor companies had recently worsened. Interest in software equities is rising and sentiment is deteriorating. Speaking of software, over the last 2 months, companies listed under the ticker IGV have fared far better than chips, thanks in part to Adobe, which is scheduled to release its earnings later this week. Shares have outperformed, as you can see. However, the sell side remains quite optimistic about the massive chip company NVIDIA. Morgan Stanley maintained its overweight rating today. Joseph Moore, an analyst, claims that worries about gross margins are exaggerated. According to him, macro risk and its possible influence on capital expenditures pose a greater threat. However, Goldman's technology team thinks the market needs clarification on 3 things in order to really get the generative AI trade back in action: NVIDIA's 2026 financials, additional proof that AI models can be made profitable, and that costs can be covered. Well, I believe it's clear, I'm not sure where you stand on this, that the thrill and all of the upside, if you want to call it a bubble or whatever you want to call it, is beyond that point this year. Is it merely a sideways correction? That's the only question. For some of these more well-known names, is there more to come? Totally. Really good earnings for the next 2 to 3 years have already been discounted, after all. Look, the Blackwell chip needs to perform the way it's done, stated NVIDIA in a very clear and concise manner. It is experiencing production problems. Then there is the requirement. As investors in semiconductors, double ordering has been the largest thing we have to constantly keep an eye on for years. Yes, exactly. And it's Google, Apple, and Meta placed too many orders in case they didn't receive what they needed. You read things about the chips being in China and other parts of the world, and then all of a sudden they all pull back together and say, oh, we don't really need these. It's a fantastic chip then, indeed.